everybody. Welcome to the English video. We're going to be looking at 11 intellectual phrasal verbs and expressions that you can use if you like to debate, argue, discuss ideas. If you're the intellectual type, then this video is for you. We're gonna start with the first one. The first one is tease out. Tease out is very peculiar. It's very interesting because this means to carefully separate or uncover information or new information that is difficult to identify. Many times you can tease out information by talking about something, thinking, writing about something, or discussing that something with another person, right? Let me give you an example. We need to tease out the underlying reasons behind this behavior. So it's something that is there, but nobody has identified or detected it. You know there is more to uncover, so you need to tease out that information, right? Like if I say, what is the difference between growing up poor or growing up rich? And you say money. Yes, okay, it's money, but let's tease out more information, right? Maybe it's connections, maybe it's luck, maybe there are other factors, right? Let's tease out more information, underlying hidden information, right? Question for you is, how do you tease out important insights from data, right? This is crucial because many times we can have data, but we don't know what to do with that information. We don't know how to interpret the data, for example. So how do you tease out the information, the conclusions from the data, right? Okay, the second one is hit the nail on the head. Hit the nail on the head is used to describe exactly what is causing a situation or a problem. So that's exactly right. If a person says you hit the nail on the head, that is exactly the reason why we have this problem, right? You hit the nail on the head. For example, when you said the issue is lack of communication, you hit the nail on the head, right? You are exactly right about something, about a point that you're making. So the question for you is, when was the last time you hit the nail on the head, right? So you hit the nail when you figure out conclusively, and everybody agrees that it's correct, and from there you're able to maybe fix the problem or solve the problem by changing that cause, right? By fixing it. Okay, the third one, I find this one to be very interesting, as well as the fourth one. The third one is separate the wheat from the chaff. When I first heard this, and I've heard these from Jordan Peterson on YouTube, I was like, what does that mean? What do you mean separate the wheat from the chaff, right? And this means to distinguish between that which is valuable and worthless, right? So you say, okay, we have all this data, we have all this information, or you're talking about all these things, but this is relevant, this is valuable, this is important, and all this other stuff is not, right? So I'm separating the wheat from the chaff, right? The wheat is like trigo, it's what you eat, right? And the chaff is just all the extra stuff that you're not gonna use. For example, it's important to separate the wheat from the chaff when reviewing these proposals, right? So let's say there are some proposals on the table and you need to figure out the elements, the variables, the conditions, the situations that are favorable and the ones that are not. Discard the ones that are not, or fix them or change them, right, to make them valuable, and go ahead and work with what is valuable, with the wheat, right? So question for you, how do you separate the wheat from the chaff at work or school? Many times we have people that, for example, will correct our grammar when we speak, or, you know, it's not good morning, it's good afternoon because it's past 12, right? That's chaff, right? So I would say that's not really important, right? As long as the communication is clear. Sometimes we have to focus more on fluency than accuracy, right? To develop our confidence, our self-esteem, our just general body language communication skills, right? Okay, the fourth one, very interesting. You're gonna find this to be interesting too, I think. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So you're like, what? What do you mean don't throw out the baby with the bathwater? So imagine you have a baby and the baby is taking a shower, right? They take a bath, right? You help them because they're a baby, right? They can't like clean themselves up. And when you throw out the bath water, well, the bath water is dirty after the bath, right? So you need to throw out the bath water, but don't throw out the baby either, right? So this is an expression, very interesting, that means don't discard something valuable while getting rid of unnecessary things, right? So when you separate the wheat from the chaff, make sure that there's no wheat in the chaff, right? So if you're separating what's like in your house, let's say you're remodeling your room, and you're like, this is garbage, this is garbage, this is valuable, this is valuable, this is garbage, this is valuable, and then you throw something valuable in the trash, and you're like, oh, like I threw out the baby with the bathwater, right? So this means to be careful that you don't discard important things when you're getting rid of all the other extra unnecessary things. For example, we need to restructure the team, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater and lose good employees, right? So maybe the company is doing bad and you say, hey, we need to, fire people. We need to let people go. Yes, but make sure you don't let good employees go, right? So don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Question, how can you make changes while ensuring you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? So whenever we make changes, we get rid of things, but how do you make sure that you don't get rid of things that are important, right? There are many examples for that. Like if you say, I'm gonna get rid of all my books that I don't need anymore, and then maybe a year later, you're like, oh, that was in one of the books I got rid of, right? You throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? Okay, number 5, dive deep into. So dive deep into means to explore a topic in great detail. This is very interesting when maybe you want to get philosophical with your friends or at school or at work, right? For fun, most of the time it's just for fun. Or if you're like an investigator, you may need to do it for your job. Let's figure out the root causes, all of the factors that interplay into this problem, right? Let's dive deep into the subject, right? Philosophers always dive deep, for example, into the subjects, right? So an example could be, we need to dive deep into the root causes of the economic crisis to understand it, right? And a question for you, when do you dive deep into a subject and examine all the details? Let me know in the comments, as always. All right, let's go now with number 6. Number 6 is walk a fine line. So this artist have said it, I walk a fine line between fame and my personal life. So the meaning is to navigate carefully between two contradictory positions or risks. Imagine a trapeze, I think that's the name, a trapeze, a person that walks the fine line, the rope, right? And if they lean too much to the right or too much to the left, what happens? They fall, right? They will fall and they will die, or they will land on the net. Right now, I think there are nets in the circus. But you're basically maintaining a balance while you walk in a fine line, right? For example, he's walking a fine line between supporting free speech and preventing hate speech, right? So let's say in government is always walking a fine line between what it needs to do and what the people want, and like a bunch of different scenarios in that case, right? So if you're trying to support free speech, that's one way of doing something, but then you're also preventing hate speech. So how can that's contradictory. How are you able to support free speech, but then you say you can't use hate speech, right? Well, that you're walking a fine line between the two. You need to figure out your priorities or where you really stand in relation to certain things. Question for you, how do you walk the fine line between innovation and tradition, between the way you do things and the way you could do things? Let me know in the comments. All right, let's go to the 7th one. The 7th one is cut to the chase. This is one of my favorite ones. Cut to the chase in Spanish can be translated like ir al grano, right? Like just tell me what you need to tell me directly, quickly, fast, concise, like just say it, right? It means to get to the point without wasting time, without beating around the bush, as they say. Beating around the bush is like dar largas. It's like you're talking about this, you're talking about that, and you're not getting to the point. Like just tell me what you need to tell me now, fast, and let's try to fix it. Let's try to move on, right? So an example could be, let's cut to the chase and address the key issues, right? Let's cut to the chase and start working on the problems, whatever we need to do, right? My question for you is, when was the last time you told someone to cut to the chase? Maybe because they were beating around the bush, they were talking about other things that had nothing to do with the issue at hand, right? With the main point. Okay, number 8 is at the end of the day. At the end of the day is kind of like an expression that means kind of like in conclusion. Like we could have all these problems. Like for example, you may say, I have all these problems with my family, but at the end of the day, we love each other, right? Like ultimately, when it's all said and done, basically. An example could be, at the end of the day, the success of the project depends on teamwork, right? Which is like ultimately, basically, right? En última instancia, like in Spanish. So my question for you is, what do you think really matters for you at the end of the day, right? Let me know in the comments. So what is truly important after all is said and done, after all of the noise of the day, for you, when all is said and done, or at the end of the day, what is truly important for you? Let me know. Okay, number 9 is keep something at arm's length. So at arm's length literally means like your arm. So you keep it at a distance, kind of like in COVID when they would tell us like stay at arm's length from people, right? So keep your distance, basically. It means to avoid getting too involved with someone or something, right? Keep that person or keep that situation at arm's length because it's dangerous, risky, you could get in trouble, etc., right? For example, I prefer to keep politics at arm's length during family gatherings, right? So you're not going to discuss politics because in your family members can all have different perspectives, and maybe you can start fighting, right? And that's unnecessary, and it's not going to be enjoyable to be fighting at a family gathering, right? For bringing up politics or religion or whatever controversial topic is at the moment, right? So my question for you, why do you think it's important to keep topics or to keep some topics at arm's length in conversations, right? Like politics, religion, income, how much you earn, right? That could be, especially with your work buddies, right? Or especially like in work settings. Okay, number 10, this one's also one of my favorite ones. Play devil's advocate. So you play the devil's advocate when I would say sometimes you could do it on purpose, but I think again, more often than not, it's because you want to just exercise that ability, right? So you play the devil's advocate when you're trying to challenge the other person or the other point of view, right? The meaning is to argue against something for the sake of debate, right? For the sake of just enjoying the exercise, the mental exercise, even if you don't necessarily disagree with it, right? An example here could be, let me play devil's advocate for a moment. What if this solution makes the situation worse, right? So you're kind of going, like everybody says, yes, this solution is perfect to fix the problem. Let's go ahead, move on, and try out this solution. And you say, okay, just hold on a moment. Hold on, that's a phrasal verb from one of the other videos. But I say, okay, hold on a moment. Let me play the devil's advocate for a moment here. What if this solution doesn't work? What if it makes things worse, right? Let's just consider that option. Let me play devil's advocate, right? Kind of like cheeky, like tongue in cheek, like being a little bit evil there, right? A little bit, how do they say? There's a word for that, I think is, I don't remember right now, but yeah, you're being cheeky, you're being kind of like evil, but with a fun twist to it, right? Not really evil like bad, but like, fun evil, fun bad. So my question for you, I'm trying to remember that word. You're being mischievous. Mischievous, yes. Like you're being travieso. It's like in Spanish, travieso, mischievous, right? Mischief, like a magician, like Loki from the Avengers, right? Like the Lord of Mischief, or the King of Mischief, right? It's kind of like this clown that does funny things, and they're kind of evil, but they're like pranks, right? Mischievous. Okay, so question for you: what do you do if someone plays the devil's advocate? So if someone that you're talking to all of a sudden starts to contradict you, challenge you, right, defy your logic, your arguments, what do you do, right? Let me know in the comments. Okay, number 11, and this is the last one. Yeah, there were 11. I don't know if I said 12, but there are only 11. Bite off more than you can chew. This is kind of like in Spanish when we say comerte el mundo a puños, right? Like you want to eat the world up, like, you know, in big chunks. Like you're not even gonna like cut the world up and chew on it slowly and calmly and in small pieces. Like you're just gonna gobble up the world quickly, right? You bite off more than you can chew means that if, like, let's say you have a piece of chicken and it's a big chicken, and you bite off a big piece, right? Excuse me. And then you're trying to chew it, but it's too big, right? Because it like fills up your whole mouth. So it's very difficult for you to bite it, to eat it, to swallow it, right? You can't even eat it. You have to like, hold on, wait a moment. Wait a minute. Let me take this out of my mouth, right? So it means that you take on more than you can handle, right? Like, let's say you're working 3 jobs. You have a family with kids. You're studying a career, another career. You're playing sports. You're doing some modeling as a hobby. You're doing this and that. You're biting off more than you can chew. You're doing so many things. It's gonna burn you out. It's gonna stress you out. You're not gonna do those things effectively or how you should be doing them, right? So you take on more than you can handle. An example, I think he's bitten off more than he can chew with all the new responsibilities, right? So if you start having a lot of work, a lot of responsibilities, because they are your decisions at the end of the day, you're saying yes to all these things, right? For whatever reason, for needs, for wants, whatever, but you're deciding this consciously. You're biting off more than you can chew. You're gonna, you know, burn out. You're gonna become a wreck, right? So my question for you, do you ever bite off more than you can chew? And if you have bitten off more than you can chew in the past, or more than you could chew in the past, let me know that story in the comments. So these are all of the intellectual phrasal verbs and expressions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you're going to use any of these in conversations with friends or family, or just for fun, or at school or at work. You could use these also. They're pretty interesting. And yeah, that's all I got for this video. So I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.